Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome back. We are the Unconnoisseurs of Jazz. Tonight, we're going to be talking about an artist who's a saxophone player, composer, and band leader, recognized for his innovative approach to contemporary jazz. As a leader, David Binney has released numerous albums featuring original compositions that combine sophisticated harmonies, complex rhythms, and elements of jazz, rock, and electronic music. Tonight, we're going to be talking about none other than David Binney, the album South. It was released in 2003 in the U.S. We'll get to that detail, why it's interesting here in just a little bit. So welcome to the show, everyone.
Welcome.
Welcome. Good to see you guys tonight.
Definitely.
Yeah, feels like it's been a long week.
Wow. Yeah. It has been.
It has.
It's a good week of listening to music, though. I'm really excited to get into the discussion tonight about David because it's a good week of listening to music.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll get into that when we talk about our week in music.
I'm sure. Let's get into some audio clips right off the bat. You guys want to hear things? That way we can jump into the information, and Matt can share with us some talking points. We can dialogue it, and then the next phase is to tell you what we think and what we rate. So with that being said, I think, Dad, you were ready at song number one.
Song number one, Out Beyond Ideas, starting at 2:45.
Do tell.
Thank you. As I listen to that, it seems like I've heard music similar to that before. Was that Maiden Voyage, or what? What was it?
You were getting Maiden Voyage vibes?
Yeah.
Okay.
What were you getting?
I was getting Brian Blade Fellowship vibes.
Okay.
Perpetual, right?
Perpetual.
Perceptual.
Okay.
Perceptual.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. It seemed like I'm saying it sounded like something that we're familiar with.
Dad, I dig on the Maiden Voyage though. I think there's something about some of these tracks, the Traveler, the Global Soul, which obviously in Leaving the Sea. So there is some of that Maiden Voyage. What I got a lot of was Wayne Shorter on the soprano. That's what I could hear, like Allegria, for example, or Footprints Live, hearing just the minimal notes. So I jive with Maiden Voyage too. But Perceptual, I mean, come on.
I see that. I got Brian Blade all the way. I even just made it in my notes right now. Is it? I mean, of course, we didn't mention the artist, but you got David Binney on sax, you got Chris Potter on alto sax, Yuri Kane on piano, Adam Rogers on the guitar, Scott Coley on the bass, and then Brian Blade on the drums. And it seems to me, and Dad, that was a great clip, by the way, but it seems to me anytime Brian Blade is playing, you get that kind of vibe almost in the music. You know what I mean?
It's Matt, it's interesting you mentioned that. I'm going to go ahead and include this now because we're going to talk about it. The other drummer on this is who?
Jim Black.
And if you look at the two tracks he was on, number 5 and number 10, his vibe it is really avant-garde. It doesn't move smooth like this. So I kind of think about that. Yes, it's Brian Blade flow, but then on the Jim Black, those are very different tracks. Those are track number 5 and number 10, but everything else is Brian Blade.
Brian Blade. Mm-hmm. Oh,
much love to Brian Blade.
That's a great nugget. Yeah, that's a great nugget.
Yeah, good.
All right, who's up next?
Matt?
Yeah? Okay, I'm up next. For me, it would be song number 3, The Global Soul. If you could start me right at about 50 seconds and play me about a minute. So for me, it was the buildup. It was the anticipation of the other members coming in. Starts with the bass, double bass guitar, and he takes the whole beginning. I mean, he gets that 50 seconds all to himself just to start the song in the first place. But then it's just that build up, and anticipation of those other artists coming in, and you can hear everything so clearly. That's what I like. The difference between the tenor and the alto sax there, it's kind of they're not out of tune, but you can tell the timbre difference of the two instruments. So, but yeah, I just like it when everything comes in and starts flowing. So that's why I picked it. I liked it.
I enjoyed it too. I like that.
I was a fan of the track for the same reason, Matt. What I actually smiled about early on is thinking that as it began, there's a lot that reminds me with Brian in the background kind of charging the tempo. And it almost reminds me of something I would hear out of the Metheny group. So that was kind of my first thought is Matt probably picked this because it does have the feel of that. We're not comparing apples for apples here, and I'm not going to compare the albums, but it does have that kind of fast-paced charging of like Bright Side's Life.
Yeah.
Some of the things that I've grown to appreciate is that drum beat moves it forward more rapidly, and then the musicians sit on top kind of slow.
Yeah.
Halftime. Yeah,
they just kind of kick back and do their thing and let the drummer drive the bus.
Yeah. Yep. So I wanted to hear Leaving the Sea. That would actually be song number 4. I want to start at 8 minutes and 30 seconds, but I want to preface it with this. At the very beginning, not at the very beginning, but like Matt's clip started out nice and calm. At about 7 minutes in on this song, it is so mellow, so chill, so easy. It's calm and smoothing, and then it builds with a guitar solo. And into that 7:30, almost 8 minutes, that solo by Adam Rogers, and then into a beautiful short solo on the tenor by Chris Speed, and then at 8:30, you're hearing David and Chris play together. And Matt, for the same reasons you love your clip, hearing these two guys play side by side is just pretty amazing. So I'm going to start this at 8 minutes and 30 seconds. They've been building and building and building. And then it kicks off into what we're about to hear now. Unfortunately, the clip itself does not do the real justice to what takes place in the building and the ramping of that. And what it feels like is the moment that a storm comes in, it's been nice and calm. The beach is nice and easy flowing. Then all of a sudden, the waves start to get a little bit bigger, and then they're bigger, then they're bigger, and I dropped you right in to the full waves of things. For everybody listening to the channel, go back and listen to that particular song as it builds. It is so really easy moving and flowing, and then it gets to that epicenter. And to me, there's so much raw emotion that dumps into that song at that moment. That's why it stands out to me. That, and it is a little more avant-garde than most of the rest of the tracks.
I'm just going to read a quote from Nate here, right off Nate Chinnon's website. It says, "Listen here for the braided, dark-hued saxophone lines, for the tidal swell of rhythm, for an inexorable forward pull at every moment with every move." That's what your clip, I mean, that your clip just highlights that. Dark-hued saxophone lines, tidal swell of rhythm, forward pull at every moment.
Yeah.
Amazing clip. That's a great clip.
So many other clips, though, because we all usually run into this. I call a song and Matt goes, "Oh, I've got that one too," or Dad's got it. And so we find this rhythm that we're all having a backup song. And I think we all chose the backup songs today with this same thing in mind. There is that forward driving that takes place in this. I noticed that all 6 of the songs that we picked, neither of them were track number 5 or number 10 with Jim Black as the drummer. I liked them, but as the album goes, I don't think that they really fit that well with the rest of the album. They fit, but it's not like a perfect fit.
Unless, Dad, you started us off with Maiden Voyage, and now that's all I think about. I mean, if you look at the names of the tracks on David's album, Out Beyond Ideas, so you're out on the far seas. The Global Soul, of course, the ocean is a global. Leaving the Sea is song number 4. Traveler is song number 6. South is song number 11. It's all again, Aqua related. Maybe
Maybe
drummer
took a clue off of that, or
either that or the 2 that are in there are waves pushing him somewhere else. On the high seas, you catch a stray wave, you're heading west, and this wave pushes you east.
We're finding
Black's
less and less on these albums on Wikipedia. So you really do have to go do your homework on these and create your own concept. I loved it when you could just go to Wikipedia and all the information's there. Such as maybe it was recorded, and it was, at separate times, but why? Maybe the Jim Black stuff was another album he was working on and then thought, you know what, it'd be really good on South instead of this other album, so we'll just pull that in. Who knows? I'm sure the viewers, somebody knows, so let us know how that fit or why.
I get your point, though, that it's almost not cohesive. It's almost out of left field, those 2 tracks, because I did feel that way too. When it was Brian Blade drumming, I could relax, I could take a breath, I hate to admit it, but background music for work, tune in and tune out, tune out and tune in. If you're working and you need to tune out for a few minutes and come right back in, and then Jim Black comes on and you're like, oh, can't ignore that. Gotta listen, otherwise, so it almost not cohesive.
So let's talk about some cohesiveness.
You ready?
Some information, baby.
Okay. All right, here we go. Just like I've said for 132 other weeks, whatever you do it to jazz. You're going to hear in Our Week in Music coming up in just a little bit. That's what we do. We listen to jazz all week long. I do want to remind our listeners that we are unconnoisseurs. We're not professional critics of jazz music. Drew and I started our journey over yeah, over 130 weeks ago, because we were stuck in a rut, a musical listening rut, and jazz, for the most part, scared me because I didn't know much about it. And after 130 weeks, man, I know a lot more, but I still don't know everything. And we're still on our journey checking out these new artists, and I'm loving every minute of it. So that's what we're about. We're just hanging out, talking about jazz, talking about an album you're going to hear in our week. That's pretty much what we do, is just listen to jazz. So for this list, we are using Nate Chinnon's book called Playing Changes, Jazz for the New Century. And we all three read the book. If you'd like to go and purchase the book, it's available at your local bookstore or at Amazon.com. We're not affiliated with Nate. We're not sponsored by Nate. We're just using Nate's list. It's in the back of his book as our guide to our journey on this new jazz, which, it took me a while to get into the top 100 list, but man, and we're 30 weeks into the new jazz, and it's starting to spark my interest again. So I'm loving every minute. Yeah. This is number 32. David is 32. Now, not all of those were on the list because while Dad was out, we created our own list for about 8 weeks. But we're 30 weeks into the new journey. So, yeah. So.
And then we did our 10 favorites, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true. Yep. So we are in the 2003 era of Nate's book. And so far in 2003, we've covered The Bad Plus. These Are the Vistas. That was the album that we covered last week. And of course, this week, we're talking about David Binney, the album called South. So on my slide here, like Drew said, there's not much on his wiki page. There is some on his website. And then, of course, Nate's got some stuff on the website as well. So just a brief bio about David. David started playing sax at an early age, and he moved to New York to play jazz at just the ripe old age of 19. And that's a big move, from a kid, just to move to the big city of New York and just start playing jazz music at the age of 19. And I'll tell you, the more I read about David, and this isn't on the slide, but the more I read about David, the more I appreciated the hard work that it took to get started and the work that it continually takes him. I sent you guys the link for that interview, and I think in the interview, he's like, I work hard every day, and then these newcomers come in and they seem to grab the fame and the fortune. And I look at my work and think, why isn't that me? And I don't know. I had a greater respect for David after I read that. And we'll put a link to the article, the article that I sent out earlier anyways. David did study with George Coleman, Dave Liebman, and Phil Woods. And if you've never heard of those names, like we hadn't, go look those cats up on Wikipedia for sure, because they've got. Go ahead, Drew.
Oh, they got a pedigree, that's for sure. They all have a pretty long, healthy pedigree. So there is no doubt that he has studied from some of the finest out there.
Yeah,
and finest of the legendaries. We're not, of the legendaries. Well,
yeah, George Coleman played with the likes of Chet Baker, Miles Davis, Red Garland, Slide Hampton, Ahmad Jamal. The list just Lee Morgan. The list just keeps going on and on and on. And we could sit and read names all night long about George Coleman. Dave Liebman, he's got a longer list. So with multiple Grammys won and everything else. So that's who David was studying saxophone. And those are, I don't know if I'd call them as heroes, but it kind of be hard not to. You're taking lessons from a guy that played with Miles. You're gonna you probably sit and listen to stories more than practice, maybe, right?
Well, but it also speaks to his struggle with I laid a foundation, and everybody else is building on it, collecting royalties from it. Well, some of these giants of the past did the same thing. Played themselves, worked hard, developed a reputation, and it wasn't for years later that you look back and go, man, these were the giants of jazz. I kind of wonder this as I finished up last week's episode, thinking about how the Vistas, these are the Vistas, Bad Plus, did these rock and roll tunes. It's the same thing as doing a folk tune. It's the same thing as doing an Irish tune, as a jazz tune. It's the same thing as rock and funk. So these became folklore songs, if you will, after a certain time. And I think that's kind of where he's at. He's studied with these greats. He is one of those giants that people are building on and building off of, more than that. But so I think those two go hand in hand. He's studied with some brilliant people.
Well, and he's played with some brilliant people too. And so earlier in the week, you and I were talking, and I said, well, he gets an extra notch on my score this week just because he's played with Maria Schneider. Now, we couldn't find a recording that he played on with Maria, but if he says he's played with her, I'm sure that it's either a live situation or that just didn't get recorded, or maybe he didn't get noted in the liner notes as playing.
I think she did a pretty good job of making sure that everybody who had played a part was on there. So I'm guessing it was a live, or we're doing this performance at a festival and called you up. I'm blown away by how many festivals have not recorded. So you go back and find something. We're fortunate that we have YouTube to go look at. Somebody stood there with their phone and recorded it. So it could have been something like that, that if y'all know where he played with Maria Schneider, put it in the comments, because we'd love to, always love to listen to Maria.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to twist my arm to go listen to David Binney play with Maria Schneider. So all right. Anyways, David started his own record label called Mythology Records. Drew, do you remember why he started that? I don't remember reading it. I put it on the slide, but
I think that I do, because he had seen a need and a possibility to do that. He was producing some albums prior to that, and he said, well, I can do this. Let's do this. And I think that coincides with the whole, I've done all this production. I've got the record label. Now maybe not I'm playing as much. I'm not getting as many gigs because he was busy doing that. And it's got to be a tough world between the production world and the performance world. How do you blend those two together and stay relevant? So I think it was all about, I've got some cool stuff. I've got some cool people that we want to get out. We've got the opportunity. Let's do it.
Well, and it's either that or burn the candle at both ends, because you're out gigging with your friends and making a little money that way. But then you got to come back home and work and finish the studio stuff that you promised you know that you're getting paid for too. So I don't know, maybe he was getting burned out, and he just decided just to stay on the recording side for a while. I mean, he's got a great discography out. So Yep. So I read this quote earlier, but I'm going to read it again. Every member of this group was functioning at his peak. And that's a quote from Nate Shannon right on Nate's website, Playing Changes book. So David's also got a website. Go check out davidbinney.com for more information. And if I forgot anything about David Binney, please leave it in the comments. Let us know. Yeah. All right. I do have a quote from David, though. And the quote I put on the slide this week: I never compose music based on anything but what sounds good to me. When I read that quote, it immediately reminded me of Pat Metheny. Pat, Gary Burton says, bring me an album. But Pat said, I'm going to play what I like to hear. And if you don't like it, tough. I want to play what I like. So that quote from Pat Metheny made me just fall in love with this quote right here from David Binney too. I never compose music based on anything but what sounds good to me.
And that quote's pretty close to the interview statement that he made, which I find interesting. I'll talk about it here in just a few minutes, or I'll start with it now. But in that interview, he says people get paid to get these national endowments. They're paid to go produce this music. And the questionnaire said, so do you come up with a theme and then write your music? He goes, I don't care for the people who do that. They're paid by this endowment or that program to write a suite or concerto for it. I don't do that. I write what I like, and that's what I'm going to do. And then I realized that in 1998, his first album was from a National Endowment grant, the National Endowment for the Arts, which was Point Game, which was that. And so hearing him say that in the interview in 2020, and then going back and looking at 1998 and thinking, man, where do you really stand on that? But I think,
maybe he was put off. Maybe writing for the endowment put him off so much that he says, I don't like it, and I don't care if you guys do it, but it's not for me. Maybe that
which
put him off.
solidifies his statement. I never compose music based on anything but what sounds good.
Yep. I mean, don't get me wrong. John Williams is he's a great composer, and I love, Indiana Jones and the Star Wars and E.T. and everything else that he's done. But it's got to get old, trying to come up with something new.
I was making sure you couldn't see my music stand because Lily's orchestra music is over there with John Williams trilogy. I'm like, where'd you come up with that?
But it's got to be difficult to try and think of something that is going to outdo what you've already done. How classic is the Star Wars theme song? You hear that first note, and it's all it takes is the first note, and you know what it is.
Yep.
How classic is Indiana Jones? You hear the first few measures, and you know it's Indiana Jones. So for David, maybe he's not trying to outdo what he did, but he's just tired of doing what he did in '98. That's what I think.
Music progresses, and if it doesn't, it gets stagnant. Always be creating.
Get that monkey fighter off my stage.
That's what I'm thinking, baby.
All right. Well, hey, thank you for letting me do that. You can always come check out more information on us at theunconnoisseur.com. That's our website. We have a 24-hour streaming radio channel called WTUR, and that's at WTUR.org. You can hit that from your computer or your smartphone, listen to 24-hour streaming jazz all day and night if you want to. Sometimes you'll hear our voices, but if you just want to hear our voices and don't like seeing our beautiful faces, you can go to Amazon, iTunes, and Spotify and check out our podcast. It's this episode, but it's in podcast form. Make sure, since you're here on YouTube, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, though, and let us know how we're doing and what do you think of our journey.
Absolutely.